Sack Life Beat Depression's day 727, and we're back to give our minds and bodies a little dose of heaven with another somatic healing session to wipe out depression. Thank you guys so much for being here now. Anyone who's tuned in now, anyone who's tuning in later, appreciate you guys and girls out there for being there, for showing up for you and also showing up for others at the same time. As you know, we focus on gratitude first and foremost in this class. It's one of those powerful mental health tools, and the more we use it, the easier it becomes to find those silver linings and things to be grateful for in life. You can use this gratitude as much as you want, as little as you want, at any time during the day, and we like to start every session with it. That'll help put us in that positive mindset before we move into the lesson. So today, my gratitude going out to you guys, as always, guys and girls, for support in the cause. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this social support system. And also want to shout out gratitude again to Jonathan Pu'u of Pu'u Muay Thai for agreeing to do that next martial arts or mental health interview known as TKO Stigma. It's coming up next Wednesday. So I want to shout out gratitude to Jonathan, appreciate him. And shout out as well to Bro Loney and Salvash. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that support. It's Mike the Executioner tuning in. Appreciate you, Mike. Thanks for being here, buddy. So we talked about gratitude. Let's talk about that next tool, which is progress tracking, keeping track of the number of days you show up for yourself. It's been 727 days of consecutive training for me, the Sackman, out here. And each one of those days, when we make it a daily accomplishable goal, something that builds us up both physically and mentally, whether it's this class, another martial arts class, or heavy bag training routine, when we keep track of that goal accomplishment, it will slowly but surely build up into more and more proof of how resilient and how strong we are and how capable we are, even in the face of things that are trying to hold us back. So you may have woken up in a bad mood or in one of those blue periods that depression likes to try and put us through, with those negative thoughts in your head like you can't get up or you can't move forward or your body is too heavy. And this number is what can anchor you back into real life, into your real strength, your proof of power, your proof of endurance. And you could look at that number, if you put it somewhere visually, you can look at that number and let it remind you that you can and you will be able to do this. And then not only will it help you realize what you're capable of today, but it also helps you look forward to what you're capable of tomorrow as that number continues to grow. And the cool thing about it is that because it's not a physical goal, because it's not an extreme training goal or anything like that, or a fitness goal, we never lose any progress here. You know, sometimes when we don't make it to the gym for a while, you lose that endurance, you lose that physical progress, but we never lose mental progress here. We never have any less proof than the amount that we've kept track of, and that number will only grow into more and more proof of how strong and resilient you are. So please do keep track of that number. Share it when you can. It'll help inspire others as well. Shout out to Mad with Hats and Lisa the Luminary. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys and gals. And yes, that is it. So we talked about gratitude. We talked about the number tool. Let's talk about the lesson today a little bit. And we always use the visualization tool to keep it mental health focused. We always use that visualization tool, visualizing that depression dummy and acknowledging that it is that thing we're working on today. So if it's depression, it's a depression dummy. If it's anxiety, anxiety dummy. And that'll help us consciously acknowledge what we do every day, which is knock those lies right out of that stupid dummy's face. And if you've got a Bob at home, Bob can be your stand-in for that depression dummy and get you an even better somatic release, some physical feedback in those punches, which can help a lot with the feeling of relieving stress. But even if you don't have Bob, you still got the air in front of you. That's all you need, just enough room to throw some punches and use that visualization tool so we can work forwards and make progress for ourselves. And today we're going to be talking about some uppercuts. We're going to be tossing some regular uppercuts down that center line, but we're also going to be talking about the uppercut as a counter, and when it's a good idea to use it as a counter and how we can make it an effective counter. And it's going to come down again to that rotation like we talked about yesterday, rotating on the balls of the feet, making sure we're not flat-footed, and making sure we stay really balanced. Balance is super important when it comes to all martial arts, especially in Muay Thai. It's very important to stay balanced, stay centered. You get scored on losing balance. You lose points when you lose balance in a ring, and that's just to emphasize the importance of staying balanced. Made it. 158. Bong bong, everybody. It's good stuff. 158 days of progress from Mad with Hats. Thank you for sharing that number and inspiring others and for being here for so much time. This number's adding up quick, man. And that's a lot of proof of how strong and how much endurance you have out there. So please do give yourself credit for that. Give yourself credit for your endurance and strength, and it'll help you continue to move forwards as we get better each and every day. And know that every day we train, we get stronger as depression gets weaker. And it's a cumulative thing. The more we do it, the better it becomes, the easier it is to fight off those daily challenges. All right, let's get back on track. So we're talking about uppercuts, and we've covered uppercuts before many times. From Muay Thai stance, we talk about the arm dropping, locking the elbow in at 90 degrees, right? Turning the palm up and sending it up that center line. Now, when we talk about, we break it down so that you can have proper technique when hitting a round bag or when hitting the chin, right? Bob's chin. We've got proper technique because we're bringing that elbow into the center line. We got it locked at 90. But in a fight situation, in a real world situation, or in the ring, you wouldn't want to drop that fist until the last moment possible. So the less time your fist is down here, the better, because of course you're opening up your guard, you're making yourself susceptible to attacks. So in the ring or in a real fight situation, you'd want to limit the time that that fist is down. So what you really want to do is get your pre-wind up, right? And as you're winding forwards, right at the last minute, drop that arm out almost like a kickstand, locking it at 90, pop, and then popping it through that chin, boom, of that opponent, right? So we're going to practice kind of keeping the guard high, boom, 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 and then boom, dropping, boom, 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 boom. We're going to try and drop that fist at the last second, send it up the center line. We're also going to talk about it as a counter. So when we use it as a counter, we're going to use it out of a slip, right? So when we practice counters before, we've got parries, right? We've got slips, and we've got rolls, boom. Not so many rolls being used in Muay Thai generally because you got to worry about kicks coming in as well. Rolls are used a lot more in boxing, but you'll still see them from time to time in MMA and occasionally in Muay Thai matches. And rolls are ideal for dodging and avoiding hooks, right? When a hook's coming in from the side, if we slip it, we're still going to take a lot of damage to the head. If we go to parry, it's pretty hard to parry a hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to dip and roll under that hook. When we're dodging straight punches, jabs and crosses, we're slipping or we're parrying them out of the way, boom, 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 and firing back. So what we're going to talk about is the counter uppercut. When we're talking about the counter uppercut, we want to use it out of a slip. That's a really good time. It'll give us the element of surprise because we can come up and have that hand somewhere where the opponent's not even going to see it coming and get him right, catch him right in the jaw. So the way we're going to do that, we'll talk about the balance still. Shout out to Slayer Ken, thanks for being here. Appreciate you, brother, and thank you for sharing those days at 334 days. Closer and closer to a year every day. Proud of your progress out there, Ken. Keep up the good work. All right, back into stance. We're in Muay Thai stance, and we're going to talk about the slip. When we slip, we want to make sure that we don't slip our head so far out that it goes over our center of balance. We don't want to lean over that outside leg. So wherever we are, we're nice and balanced, we're nice and centered, right? Chin's balanced, balanced stance. When we slip, we still want to be on the inside of our balance. We don't want to lean that head over the outside. And what that's going to let us do is stay on balance so we can execute a nice, cool counter strike right there. So when we're talking about the counter strike, a couple of things are going to come into play. We've got our normal uppercuts, right? We're twisting through the ball of the foot. Same thing's going to happen. We're twisting through the ball of the foot. We're sending that elbow into the center line. But this time, we're going to think about the opponent's arm, right? Because the opponent's arm is going to be extended. They just missed. We just slipped that attack. So if we're fighting someone who's orthodox position and they toss a big power cross at us, right? It's coming in on this direction. What we want to do is always slip to the outside. We want to be on the outside of their body so we can counter. And then if we come straight through with an uppercut, their arm is going to be in the way. We're going to actually make contact with that arm, not make it to the face. So what we need to do is we need to think about scooping under that arm and rolling around that arm up into the face. And we can do this and get a lot of power out of it if we rotate on that lead foot. When it's the lead uppercut, the lead foot rotates. Rear uppercut, the rear foot rotates. And we'll break both of those down. But basically, we're going to be coming out of the slip. So we're visualizing the opponent tossing a big power cross towards our head. We're going to slip out of the way of that power cross. We're still balanced. And from here, we're going to rotate on the ball of the front foot and let that fist just whip around around the center line, around that arm, and up into the chin of that dummy, of that depression dummy. So if you visualize it with Bob, you might make it a little bit easier to visualize here. When we're dealing with jabs and crosses, straight punches, bah, 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 everything's down that center line. When we're talking regular uppercuts, boom, 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 boom. Everything's down that center line. But now if we imagine Bob tossing across towards my head, I'm going to slip to the outside of that cross, and now I want to reach under. See that? Reach under, whoosh, and I'm turning on the ball, that front foot, letting it whip through, bum, through that head and get around that cross. And the same thing from the opposite side. If you're dealing with a southpaw fighter throwing crosses from the opposite side, we can do the same thing. We're going to slip. Well, that's not it. It's coming in from the opposite side. We're going to slip in, right, to the outside, making sure we put ourselves on the outside of that punch, outside of the body. And then we're going to twist on the ball of the rear foot this time and send that fist under. Whoosh, let it whip through like it's whipping off right off the hip. I hope you guys can see the footwork here. So we're nice, we're squared, bum, bum, bum. We're tossing jabs and crosses, and then that power cross comes in. We're going to slip it, and we're going to pivot on the ball, that back foot, and whip, let it whip up that center line, keeping our head off the line, right? Because there's an arm here. There's an arm that just missed our head, so we're off the center line in our slip, and boom, we're going to stay off that center line and send this hook up and around that arm and into the head of that opponent. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to practice a couple counter hooks, practice some regular hooks up the center line, bum, 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 and then slip and counter, rotate on the ball of the front foot, slip, counter, rotate on the ball of the back foot, bum, 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 slip, boom, right in there, slip, right in there, bum. Keeping the guard high on that lead hand whenever we're slipping, whenever we're countering. That way we don't have to take the guard down. And really firing from the hip and rotating through. It's the whole body's working in unison, right? Bum, 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 slip, and now ball of the back foot's going to rotate. I'm firing from the hip up and scooping through, smashing right through the face of that depression dummy. So those are our uppercuts we're going to practice today, our counters we're going to practice today. If you got a Bob, you can use them, get that extra somatic release. If not, still totally cool. You can do this with that visualized dummy and moderate to your intensity level. I am still feeling fatigued for some reason from this COVID thing. It is day 10, so I'm fully recovered, and tomorrow I'll be back out into the world, reintegrating, and it'll be party time again. But for some reason, it's not a linear recovery. It seems like yesterday had a lot less fatigue, and today I'm feeling a lot more fatigue just with a little bit of effort. So I'm going to dial that intensity down, and remember, you guys can do the same thing. Change your volume, your pace, and your intensity of punches to match a challenge for you today in your given circumstances. Shout out to Simon and Mace. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate that support. As always, make sure you got plenty of water and you're staying hydrated. And you're breathing in the nose and out the mouth and giving yourself a challenge but not pushing too hard. Avoid those signs of overreaching, dizziness, lightheadedness, nauseousness in the stomach. Alright, that being said, let's get this thing going. We'll have the fighting spirit of the 80s to fuel our progress. And let's do it, man. Let's do Stranger Beat today. Yeah. I'm in a Stranger Beat mood. Feeling kind of strange. So, alright, let's do this thing. Square up with that visualized target. Pop into Muay Thai stance. Now let's get this thing going. We're going to have our standard rounds. 3 rounds. 3 minutes each. 1 minute breaks to catch your breath and drink some water. And we're getting right into it. Let's go. Visualize that target. And we're going to start by just stepping in, tossing some jabs and crosses. Pop, pop, step in, turn those fists over, bum, bum, bum. Send them down the center line. Keep that guard high and exhale on those strikes. Boom, boom, boom. Keep going, drilling them. Keep that chin tucked and balance nice and centered. Now we're going to start talking about, talking about slips. We're going to slip, incoming, cross from one side, slip, cross from the other side, and then back to stance. With that slip, we want to bring that shield up, bring that elbow into the center line, right? Guard the head, brace the head, turn the head, just getting it out of the way of the size of a fist. We don't have to dip way over here. We just want to get that head off the center line about the distance of a fist. So toss some more jabs and crosses in there. Lump them up, let's go. Toss them, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Square up with that target. Visualize them. Visualize knocking those lies right out of his stupid face. And back to stance. Slip. Back with a cross. Slip on the opposite side. Back with the jab. Back to stance. Keep the guard high. Slip cross. Slip jab. Back to stance. Keep it square. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, there it is. Square up. Keep it square. And we're going to start firing some uppercuts. Uppercuts come from the hip. Remember, fire from the hip. Drop that arm to 90 degrees and send it up that center line. We're going to practice dropping it, boom, at the last moment, right? So normally we dropped it down here and we fired up from the hip. It's the same mechanics, but we're just going to let that twist happen first. And right at the last second, we're going to drop that arm into 90. Bam, and pop them in the head. Back to square, hit him with the 1, 2. Uppercut, 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 uppercut. Back to stance, square it up. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Slip. Back to stance, slip. Back to stance. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Toss some uppercuts. 1, 2. Back to stance. 1, 2. Back to stance. 1, 2 uppercut. Back to stance. 1, 2, 3 uppercut. Back to stance. Keep it square. Drill some uppercuts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Back to stance, square up, keep the guard high, chin tucked. Visualize that target and hit him with the 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Slip and counter with the cross. Slip, cross. Slip, counter with the jab. Slip, jab. Back to stance. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. And uppercuts. Back to stance, and that's the end of round 1. Catch your breath, drink some water, check in on you. And Hosaka, thank you for being here. Simon May said, hey everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you for that positive support, Simon. And make sure you're drinking water out there and giving yourself a challenge. In the next round, we're going to get into those counter uppercuts a little bit more, coming out of the slip. Instead of countering with a regular jab and cross, we're going to start countering with that uppercut and twisting through the body, whole body. Remember, and keep those knees bent, right? Weight on the balls of the feet, and really pivot through, sending those fists up that center line. We're going to get our head off the center line with the slip, and when we come back, we're keeping that head off the center line because we have a hand there, right? The opponent's cross just came through. We just slipped it. We want to keep the head off that center line, and we're going to rewind, whoosh, and reach around that arm, pop, driving that fist right through his face. Back to stance, square up, hit him with the 1, 2, hit him with a couple uppercuts. Back to stance, uppercuts. Back to stance, uppercuts. Back to stance. Now we're going to slip that cross. We're visualizing a big powerful cross coming in towards our head. We're going to slip that cross on the outside of the body, and then we're going to fire back by pivoting on that front foot and letting this fist whip. Boom. Let it whip under. Use the whole body as in one motion. Let it whip under that extended arm and crack him right in the chin. Back to stance. Hit him with the 1, 2. Square up. 1, 2. Square up. Now we're going to slip that power cross, right? That power cross is coming in. We're going to get our head off the center line, slip into the outside of that cross, and then we're going to twist through on the ball, that front foot, boom, and let that fist whip around, reaching around that extended cross of our opponent and cracking right through the chin. Boom, and you can drive through. You don't have to stop right there. Drive right through. Smash that depression dummy's face. Let's go. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to stance. Slip that power cross. Boom, we're slipped. Now hit him back with the whip. Whoosh. Boom, right up that center line. Reach around that arm and target the chin. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to stance. Slip that power cross. Boom. Heads off the center line. Now whip. Boom, right through the face. Back to stance. Square up. Jab cross. Jab cross jab. Double jab cross. Double jab cross. slip that lead, cross, and whip, boom, right through that center line. Let the body turn, work as one, and back to stance. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to stance. So we're going to start slipping the opposite side, the opposite attack. So before we were slipping that cross, we're going to be slipping a power jab or a cross coming from southpaw. And from here, we're going to pivot on the ball of that rear foot, letting that rear fist, boom, sweep up, swing under that arm, and catch him in the chin. Back to stance. So visualize that attack coming in. We're slipping to the outside. We're not stepping over that leg. Staying nice and balanced. And now we're going to pivot on that rear foot, whoosh, and drive that foot up. Drive that fist up right through the center line. Bang, into the chin, through the face of that opponent. And then back to stance, square up, visualize that target. 1, 2, slip that jab, boom, and then power up, boom, right there, up, right up the center line. That is the end of round 2. Catch your breath, drink some water, check in on you, make sure you're not feeling those signs of overreaching, and you're doing all right. We got 45 seconds, and then we're going to get back into it. We're going to mix those tools we just learned together. We're going to practice that slipping off the line. Slip off the line, bam, drill through. Slip off the line, bam, drill through. And we're going to mix it all together. Hopefully it'll flow well. And remember, push to your intensity level. I'm giving myself a challenge out here. Still dealing with some early fatigue or some fatigue side effects of that COVID bout. But I am giving myself a challenge. Hopefully you can tell. Hopefully you're giving yourself a challenge too, because that's the only way that we can grow stronger every day. We've got to get out of that comfort zone and keep giving ourselves a challenge out there. We got 6 seconds. We're going to pop back into stance. Square up with that visualized target. Guard high by the brow line. Hit him with the 1, 2. 1, 2. Slip. 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 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now we're going to slip to the outside of that power cross and hit him with the rewind. Hit him with that uppercut. Whoosh, right up the center line, twisting through the whole body. Check out the shoulders. Shoulder drops on that lead hand, rear shoulders up, and we're sending it, boom, up that center line. Everything rotates together on the ball of that front foot. Back to stance. 1, 2. 1, 2. Slip left. Slip right. Slip left. Slip right. 1, 2. 1, 2. Slip left, boom, and counter with the uppercut. Whoosh, back to stance. Slip right, and counter with the uppercut. Whoosh, back to stance. Remember, keep that head off the center line, but not over your center of balance. Square up, guard high, hit him with the 1, 2. Down the pipe, 1, 2. Down the pipe, 1, 2, 3. Keep it square, guard high, slip, and counter with the hook. Slip, counter hook, back to stance. Now slip and counter with the opposite hook. Slip, bang, up that center line, back to stance. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Square up, guard high, slip and counter hook. Bam, there it is. Slip and counter hook on the opposite side. Back to stance. 1, 2. Let's drill some uppercuts. Just up that center line. Bring that elbow in and drive those fists up into the chin of that dummy, right up that center line. Keep the guard high. After contact, bring it back to the head and twist through those shoulders, twist through those hips. Back to stance, square up. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Slip and counter. Slip, counter, back to stance. Slip and counter, opposite side. Slip, back to stance, square up. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep it square, keep it tight. Slip and counter. Back to stance, slip and counter. Back to stance. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Regular uppercuts here. Go. Back to stance, square up. 1, 2 to the head. Slip and counter. 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 Back to stance. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. and drill those uppercuts. Let's finish strong. Whoos, 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 whoos. At your pace. Let's go. Whoos, 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 whoos. And that is the end of round 3. Hoy. Man, feeling that fatigue. I hope that you guys are giving yourself a challenge. I'm doing my best out here to challenge myself to continue to grow and to be here to support your growth every single day. As long as you show up for you, I will be here to support you. And if you missed this lesson, you're catching just the end, and you want to take it at your own time, at your own discretion, check it out on Sack Life Daily on YouTube.com. We post every single episode up on there directly after the show. In about 10 minutes, it will be live, and you can take that at any time. You can also take it anonymously from any device that's YouTube enabled, and you can let a friend know if they want to explore other options and see if maybe there's something they can use as well. They can do so anonymously as well from YouTube at Sack Life Daily. Until next time, I'll catch you guys same Sack time, same Sack channel, same Sack Life. Sack man out. Woo!